Wait, what's happening there? That doesn't fit.
And here is its replacement. You can see a massive upgrade. Dare I say, this is very OEM plus, guys. Here is one of my most prized possessions.
Welcome back to this video series on my 2009 BMW 535 Xi Wagon that's being supported by eBay Motors. And in the previous episode, we manual swapped this thing. And in this episode, we are gonna work on the N54, get it up into tip-top shape and put some performance mods on it as well. We are gonna get started off with, I think, one of the main issues on this engine, and that is an oil leak at the oil filter housing, which is a super common problem. And what you don't wanna do is leave this be, because oil seeps down and gets onto the belt, and then that belt ends up ingesting itself in between the crank and the engine, basically can destroy your engine, like throw the timing off. It is a catastrophic failure. And the great minds at BMW have decided that to take this off, there is a bolt that they have hidden behind the intake manifold, guys. So we now have to take the intake manifold off before we can do this. There is our housing, and you saw it actually wasn't all that bad. Like starting to work on this engine, pulling the radiator, all that stuff is seems like any other car. Dare I say Hondas? Maybe, possibly. The next step we have to do here is take this housing apart. You can see it's been leaking. There is a ton of oil residue here that has built up over the years. My trouble is right now we need what is that called? A 12-point Allen. And you can see we do have those sockets, but the wonderful engineers at BMW said, no, you're gonna need a deep socket or an extended socket of sorts to get in there. So that is gonna be a bit of a problem. I think I'm gonna have to come in with an Allen here, which does fit. And I bet you any money this has been torqued. Oh.
You either stripped it or it came loose.
It went loose. We got it, we got it. That is the first hurdle I think we needed to overcome here. It's certainly crusty. It's still pretty soft, so who knows if this has been done or not, but judging by the amount of guck all around, I'd say it was leaking somewhere. I'm just gonna clean this up now and get this ready for a reinstall. Quick cleanup in the parts washer has done its job. It's no vapor hone, but all the crud is gone. And now we are gonna be installing FCP Euro's oil filter housing kit, which comes with all new gaskets and bolts. Beep, 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 beep. I think I'm gonna come out and say this. That intake manifold job was, I think, the easiest one I have ever done. The easiest manifold I've taken off,
period. And I'm starting to warm up to this N54 so far. It hasn't been a nightmare to work on like I've read in the posts and the forums and all the folklore. This engine actually right now has been pretty good for the most part. So I don't really know. Post in the comments, guys. Let me know what are the real major pitfalls to working on these things. The turbo side, yes, I get that. Even the front belt, this doesn't look all that bad to access to. Speaking of, that is the next job. I'm going to replace the belt, the crank pulley, and a whole bunch of seals in this area. Me removing that crank pulley is a twofold reason. The first one is we want to install this crank seal guard, and these are readily available on eBay Motors, and it is a amazing safety measure to have in place as it goes down here and protects basically the belt from getting ingested through the crank seal, which does happen in a worst case scenario. If you haven't done your belt in a while and oil runs down on it, gets sucked through the crank seal into your oil pump and cause a massive mess, oil starvation, basically blow your engine up. As a safety precaution, while I'm in here, I am going to swap out all of the idler pulleys that we have here and the tensioner itself. And usually what you would do is if you have a plastic power steering pump pulley, you would replace this with a metal one, but this one being metal, I don't have to do it. Oh, it's tight. And here is the other reason why I am swapping out my crank pulley. If you notice this one over here, this is the automatic one, and this one is a manual one that I have sourced, again, off of eBay. They are fantastic for finding used parts quickly. And you can see the difference is this one is actually smaller and lighter, and I'm not changing it out because it's lighter. What I'm doing is I am matching this with the manual gearbox. And this is something that might be minor in the grand scheme of things, changing out pulleys on a manual swap, but for me, it makes sense because the harmonics of the engine are probably transferred through this, and there's a reason why it is this size. BMWs of this era use a ton of plastic parts, and guess what? After 10, 15 years and thousands upon thousands of kilometers, they end up cracking and failing. So the aftermarket has found a bunch of solutions, and most of them are building pieces out of aluminum or steel, and this one being the outlet for one of the radiator hoses, and it goes right here and replaces this one here, which is known to fail. Beep. So one of the last maintenance mods that you want to do on these vehicles is the coolant hoses, because these tend to crack mainly at these little nipples here and here, the lower areas. Sometimes they will split up here when the plastic gets very brittle, but these pieces tend to crack, and they always tend to crack at the most inopportune time when you're driving on the highway and you're trying to get home and then it blows up. Ask me how I know, because that did happen on an N54 powered 335i to me, and it cost me 2 hours of my life. I always end up just replacing them anytime you've got the chance where you've got the coolant apart. And you see it does come together quite easily. So we'll just get this bottom one down inside here, and that is it for our coolant hoses. One of the major pitfalls of these N54 engines are the injectors. These direct injectors do fail, and they're incredibly costly to replace. What you want to do is, if you have a failed set, buy some Index 12 ones. Those are the good ones, the updated ones. They won't give you any more problems, but they cost like $2,000, so not cheap. And right now this engine and car is running fine, so I'm not gonna be touching them because I just don't think it's a good spend. But what we are gonna do is we're gonna replace the spark plugs, and we're gonna replace the coils. So these coil packs are pretty hard to remove by hand. And I saw a quick little neat trick that I thought I'd pass on to you guys, is you take your extension here and then you pull up, and it pops it out like that, makes it so much easier. And now it is time to change our spark plugs, and BMW, in their infinite wisdom, have used a 12-point head. And luckily, we actually have 12-point sockets here in the 14 mil size, so you can see. So go down on here. Pretty good. Let's see if we can go pull the first one. Wait, what's happening there? That doesn't fit. And why doesn't it fit? Well, guess what, everybody? You need a special thin-walled socket because they designed this cylinder head to accommodate that. You cannot use a regular socket. Quick plug here, the beauty of eBay is if you see the item online, you can go buy it because it's going to be in stock, ready to ship out to you. So we're gonna do that and we will get back to putting these in later. And here is the upgrade we're gonna be making for our ignition coils. These are Dynon N54 specific ignition coils, and they are just gonna give us a little bit of extra spark, which is worth it, and they're quite affordable. These can be found on eBay for $200 US, which is to me a pretty good bargain for what the equivalent of an OEM one is. Way more money, and these actually provide more spark. And if you don't like the blue, they do come in a more OEM black, and I think they also come in red, so you do have options. I learned a valuable lesson here today, and that is not all N54 engines, even though identical, are the same in terms of configuration for chassis. So this is an N54 charge pipe, which I naturally thought would fit this engine. However, in a 535, it does not fit, and that is because on these cars, we have the power steering reservoir right here, and it would interfere right here. Where the blow-off valves are is different. So this upgrade is not going to happen, which is kind of sad because having a larger diameter pipe like this always helps, and the fact that this is metal versus this being plastic is a huge advantage. These do tend to crack, but this one looks in good shape, so I'm gonna cross my fingers, roll the dice, and we're putting this back in. Oh, and I should mention, this is for a 335i from Cobb, so this will fit any 335i N54 equipped car. If you plan to do any sort of performance tuning to your engine, then the factory plastic blow-off valves from BMW have to go. Again, prone to cracking, they just won't hold a lot of boost, and in their place, I've decided to go with a set of TurboSmart compact blow-off valves. And the beauty of these is they're gonna drop right in here, lock in place, and all we're gonna have to do is run the supplied tubing with it and make it all work. Well, we have a slight curveball here that I once again didn't realize. These blow-off valves are for 335i, 135i cars, not 535i cars. And you can see the way the routing, the plumbing would be to use the TurboSmart return hose here is not going to work. But then I looked at the factory piece and took it off of the stock blow-off valve, and I think if we put it on here, you can see it's actually quite tight for a fit. Put that on there, put this in here, this will fit right onto here quite nicely. And there you go, you have a proper setup. And for those of you wondering, this does not need to be fully sealed. We're still gonna put some tape around here, but this is a blow off. So this discharges pressurized air into the intake system. So it's not critical from a perspective of having a small leak or something like that. Here is my rubber tape that I was telling you guys about. And all I'm gonna do is just wrap it around here. And now we have ourselves, dare I say, this is very OEM plus, guys. Watch this. This is gonna drop into here like stock, into our stock location, like that. There, in there, on there, and look at that, voila.
Wait a second, you didn't think we'd actually install the stock intake back on, did you? Instead, we jumped onto eBay Motors and found what I think is the best option for an aftermarket intake for this car, and thanks to eBay's green checkmark, we know this is a direct fit. This K&N intake is super easy to assemble and even easier to install on the engine, so if you've ever doubted this upgrade, then this should be yet another reason to do it.
It also never hurts to give your 16-year-old OEM parts a quick cleanup. I'm using these Gojo scrubbing towels. They have a rough texture to them, which really helps remove dirt and grime.
So there you have it. This engine is starting to look complete again, and you'll notice we did use this beautiful K&N intake here, which is going to be one of the main focuses of the engine bay, and for good reason. This is gonna increase performance. It's guaranteed to make around 10 horsepower. And the most important thing about this intake is that it does have a cold air draw. A lot of the intakes that you see on these vehicles are just basically cone filters sitting right here that are sucking hot air, not this one. And for those of you with a keen eye, you will notice this does say K&N. However, the one we purchased off of eBay was AEM, and that is because K&N owns AEM, and now these are only available in AEM, not K&N, but it's still the exact same intake.
It also never hurts to do a quick oil change and ensure we've got the very best oil protecting this N54 engine. Valvoline European Full Synthetic 5W40, which you guessed it, is readily available on eBay Motors.
One of the other major upgrades we are going to make is to the intercooler. You can see this is the stock intercooler, and while it's not bad, it certainly leaves a lot to be desired if you're making more power. And here is its replacement. You can see a massive upgrade from an intercooler standpoint. This is going to provide us with all of the cooling, and this was sourced through eBay as well. This is a great score, especially because this is bolt-on. That being said, I can already tell you there is gonna be a bunch of trimming that's going to be needed here to fit this up. Here is all of the ducting I was talking about, and that oil cooler runs along right here. Thankfully, we did a manual swap, so now we can just lop this off. There's gonna be a bunch of oil that I'm sure is gonna run out of here. Yep. So we're gonna let that drain, and then we'll be able to pull this cooler out of here. So this right here is what an automatic transmission cooler looks like on this BMW. It's pretty clever engineering if you think so. The airflow comes in through here and then exits on the back side out right here. It's a good thing we're getting rid of this though, because we now have, I think, all the space we need here. Except this little rod, which, look at this thing. Why is there a random rod? This is just, there's a rod here. Maybe it diverts airflow. I don't know, guys. Somebody post in the comments, what is this doing up front here? See if we've made the room here. Oh yeah, people. Oh yeah. And the final intercooler pipe goes on, and that is in, and I'm really impressed with this actually. This was not a big job at all to fit what is a massive intercooler and a great upgrade on this car. Here is one of my most prized possessions that I was able to score off of eBay, and these do not come up often, and when they do, I had to grab it. So this is an authentic E61, so Wagon M5 rear bumper. As you can see, it has the outlets for the dual exhaust system, and my hope is that it will fit up here. I've seen a couple videos and photos online of these Wagons having dual exhaust systems, but I've never seen one with this specific bumper other than an authentic M5. So let's get this thing up in the air and have a quick peek. Now, having done an E39 M5 touring conversion in the past, I do know in the trunk area, if you want to fit both mufflers, there's going to be a ton of modification that needs to be done. This time around, I don't want to do that. My plan is we're going to run a muffler here, and what I want to do is have a valve that opens and closes and has a straight pipe that goes to this side. That being said, our only worry is in here. I'm hoping this is empty. I know there's gonna be a bit of a battery box in here. All right, the moment of truth here. Oh no, I already see something, Dave.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy, what is this stuck on here? Oh. As you can see, this is an air pump, and I can see the lines here running to what are the airbags. So this car has rear air suspension, and deleting this is a no-go. I do wonder, I can't imagine we would be able to get an exhaust pipe through here and out here. Oh man, this is gonna be a timeout for 5-10 minutes. I gotta regroup, think about this.
One eternity later.
So given the tight timeline to get this vehicle done, I just don't think it is worthwhile doing this mod right now because I really want this to look good. I've seen a lot of dual exhausts where they look poorly done, and I do not want that. The flip side is this is an M Sport bumper, so we already have one of the better looking bumpers for this vehicle, and I did find a quick little mod online that we can do to the exhaust system, which will give us a little bit more sound and some exhaust tips off of eBay that'll make it look better. So apparently the mod to do is to basically delete this muffler. You can see this does have a valve, so under full throttle and acceleration, this opens up and kind of gives this engine a deeper tone from an exhaust standpoint. So the way to go here is just to basically remove this. There is our straight pipe. It was pretty straightforward, if you know what I mean. Now that we are done that, what we want to do is something about these tips. These tips do come off, so you can see, and I don't really love the chrome. These bad boys are from eBay. These are not necessarily for the E60. You can see a little bit longer. I think these are for the F10, so the generation up from the E60, but I think we're gonna make them work, and they're gonna look much nicer. Now you can see these are going to need a little bit of finessing to make them fit on here because they're a little bit loose, but I'm just gonna bend these brackets out and I think we're gonna be good to go. With the exhaust back on, we can try to fit these tips and properly get them aligned and see what they're gonna look like, but already I can tell you, this is looking so much nicer than those original ones. I do love the black chrome on it. Now the question is, do we keep them straight like this, or do we offset it a little bit like that?
They were offset originally, weren't they?
Were they?
I think.
Yeah, I think they were, yeah. Now I promise we will start this up in 1 second, but guess what just arrived right here? This is that specialized BMW spark plug socket that was ordered on eBay 2 days ago, and it has arrived right now, so let's go swap some spark plugs and fire this thing up. It still boggles my mind that you need a special tool like this, but let's see. Oh yeah, that goes in nicely. I do like the wobble feature on it too. Oh man, oof. See that? Look at that, that is wild. There's like soot all around it.
Yeah.
Man,
Well,
It's a good thing we're replacing, and you can see they're old. These have not been touched in a very long time. This right here is what a proper spark plug looks like, and these are iridiums, so they do come pre-gapped, and you'll notice they don't have the 3 prongs like the other spark plugs had there, but these are a step colder plug, so they will be more equipped to run a little bit more boost. So what you hear right there is the electronic water pump running right now, and it is self-bleeding the coolant system, which is a super cool feature on this vehicle and a bunch of other BMWs of this era, where essentially it is pumping all of the air into the expansion tank. So when we get ready in 10 to 12 minutes after this procedure, we can start this thing up and there's gonna be no air in the coolant. I'm always a bit nervous starting a car after some major maintenance like that. You just never know what's gonna happen, but pretty confident we got it all together. So, hey, that thing sounds real good from the back. Like,
sound good.
Real good. So wow, that has a fantastic like deep tone to it, no rasp. I don't think it's gonna drone on the highway in any which way. Let me give you guys a couple of revs. So it is actually really quiet. I don't think it's added a ton of decibels, but we'll see when we drive it. And wow, is it just me, Dave, or does this engine sound way smoother? It's just, maybe it was those engine mounts that were so bad, but now it just seems to be running really, really clean. This intake being closed, I don't think it's gonna make any real noise, but let's give it a couple of revs anyways and see what happens. Not much, but once you get this car under load, I think that's where we'll hear the air intakes. Well guys, that is going to be a wrap on this episode. A lot of work got done, and I think what we have right now is a properly sorted N54 ready to go. So huge thanks to eBay for supporting this video series. There is a link in the description. If you're looking for any sort of parts, tools, new and used, check them out. They certainly will have it. And thank you guys so much for watching. In the next episode, we are going to finish this build off, and that means putting a whole bunch of cosmetic stuff on it. So stay tuned for that one, and we will see you next week.